everyone. The transition button seems to be working, and it is time once again for Daily Cast. It is day number 9. I appreciate y'all making it out at this slightly later hour. I'm coming back from a CO. Had a very fun time seeing out the Automata Initiative meta, but now it is time to talk about the upcoming RWR meta. And I have 4 fantastic guests on with me tonight to talk about these cards. Now, it's not night for all of them, but I should gonna be local here. First up, Ginevra, would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about when you started Netrunner and kind of where people may or may not know you from?
I'm Ginevra. I'm in Australia, so it's actually early, like morning. And I started a little bit before System Gateway was released. And I guess I've largely played Standard from then on. I like playing online tournaments. And I ended up being a mod and an admin on GLC. And later on, I started contributing to the narrative and art teams at Null Signal Games.
Fantastic, thank you. On Holiday, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Yeah, I'm Holly. I'm primarily playing in Boston. I just had the privilege of losing to Jeff at the CO, which he neglected to mention he actually won.
Wow.
But I started playing back when Levy Geist was a thing you could do, and it captured my imagination, and then I fell off because I left college. And then I got back in right around when Downfall was releasing, and I've been playing Standard since then.
Fantastic. Ba Ram Wu, would you mind introducing yourself to the stream?
Hello everyone, my name's Baram Wu. Welcome to WooTube. Wrong, it's not, it's Daily Casts. I've been playing since Guitar Cycle. If you're ever bored of watching Jeff play real decks, then you can always come and join me on a Monday night, my time, where I play some slightly more ludicrous things. Although me and Jeff do have very similar likes for Japer, especially Arizona, and Wayland, especially Ob.
Yeah, I feel like I gotta start rounding up all the big voices in the community because I feel like the set has had so many tools for all these different archetypes, and I'd love to do a shaper brew session with you at some point.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
All right, Cephalapod Wizard, would you mind introducing yourself to the crowd, so to speak?
Hello, I'm Cephalapod Wizard. I started playing also a bit before the Guitar Cycle released, and I really enjoyed Shaper nonsense, and I spent a long time making Shaper decks, orange Shaper decks, and blue Shaper decks. At one point, the rules team said, "We want you," and I applied, and now I work on the rules too.
Fantastic. What's the card? You also have made a video recently. What was about deck building and doing it with some weird stuff. And then I also know you from never mind. We'll hit that card. I'm sure later you'll find a way to work it in. But we have a full plate of scoops today. They're from quite a couple different sources. I'm going to try to call them out. If you don't know where they're from, please don't hesitate to ask. So first up, we have one of the GLC scoops. They gave 4 members of marginalized communities scoops, and I think we have 2 of them right now out. But maybe but here's the very first one.
Maybe.
Or this was the first in order. It was first in set order, I guess. This is Lisome, is my best attempt at pronunciation here. It is an 8 cost 2 MU. Oh, sorry, Ginevra.
There you go. It's something like Lobizome.
Lobizome. Okay. It is program, icebreaker, decoder, fractor. You don't see a lot of decoder fractors, though there is one in Shaper before I don't remember the name of. When you install this program, and whenever it fully breaks a code gate, place 1 power counter on this program. Interface 1 credit, break 1 code gate subroutine. Interface X credits, hosted power counter, break X barrier subroutines. 1 credit plus 2 strength, a base strength of 2, and 2 influence. So, who wants to take a first stab at this? Maybe I'll start. Baramu, do you remember the shaper? Is there a shaper card that breaks?
Yeah, there is.
Okay, do you remember the name of
So,
it?
yeah, so firstly there's Penrose. Penrose is both a Fraxer and a Decoder.
That's a
and
good
it has
shout.
both subtypes. But then one of the, I think it's Sage. If not, it's one of the other. I'm just like desperately trying to search it here. But
It is Sage, yeah.
I need. Absolutely nailed it. There we go. I can probably just leave the stream now. Feel great. Okay, so in my opinion, this looks like a pretty cool hit card. Like I'd probably enjoy playing this in kit, especially if I'm Spark of Inspirationing this out, which I think is probably one of the only ways which you're getting this out. Maybe we can Wizards chest it out, would be the other way. However, No Signal Games have decided to roll Kit up in a carpet, take her out the back, and dump her in a dumpster due to the release of Tributary. So whether Kit is practical, I mean, you know, bless her, she wasn't always the most, the strongest thing, but she's had a bit of resurgence recently. They thought, no, that's enough. We've had enough of it being potentially a competitive element. So we're going to make an ice which completely ruins her entire existence. So you can play this, but you will need to play either like a hippo in kit or like 3 copies push.
Oops.
And that's what I have to say about it.
Okay. Well, you know, I think a lot of people do look at this and say, "Oh, it's a code gate, and it breaks barriers." That seems great for kit, but I do think the Tributary callout is a good one. I might go Cephalapod Wizard next. What are your kind of immediate impressions on this card?
So Kit is definitely a home, and maybe you just accept the bad Tributary matchup. Also, Padma says charge, Lobusuman says power counters. That's something that we can do. But also, I think, so you call out Spark of Inspiration, and this also gives us, if we're using Spark of Inspiration, we also have that other card that's obviously meant to be sparked, which is Orca, that killer that also charges stuff. So this does offer us, we just play 2 sparks and we get this complete breaker suite. And then we could maybe stick this in any kind of home. One that probably doesn't actually run a lot of programs. So I think that's kind of open as to what you do with that, but you could do event heavy since there's no programs in here. And you have maybe some kind of prepaid voice pad kind of rig.
That's an interesting combination, yeah. Just kind of all in on events and say, I'm going to get these 2 programs to play eventually. I kind of like that. I also want to shout out this art. Ginevra, do you know anything about the theming of this card? Like what a Lobosome might be? If you don't, that's totally fine.
It's like the equivalent of a werewolf, isn't it? Like someone who shape shifts into like wolf-ish, or maybe not wolf, but who shapeshifts into an animal. So it's kind of the duality in the art, and particularly when it's on the table, possibly the more threatening side is facing the core.
Oh yeah, that's funny. That's actually quite cool. Yeah.
We spent a bunch of time in the art team, like flipping it up to see all the ways that it would appear to you.
Yeah, this is a very nice Adam Doyle piece. I guess in addition to the art and yeah, the theme, I guess what are your thoughts on the card?
I'm kind of interested in it because I was for Liberation I was mainly playing Tau, which is unusual for me, and kind of doing it with something like Angola or something like lamb. And so trying to have like not the many pieces type shaper feel, but just a couple of important, very expensive in this case, but important programs. And then like with Hermes and with sort of being able to then use other things and not doing as much of the manipulation and changing programs that Shaper sometimes likes to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really actually fun style of shaper, and like it's been a pretty good one at times. Like maybe not like the giantest program style versions of it, but like those like, yeah, I'm not going to install a rig. I'm just going to like install some powerful cards and make the corp dance. I think is pretty interesting. And Holly, if we haven't heard from you yet, so be interested to hear your thoughts.
When I saw this, my thought immediately went, okay, so it's an 8-cost shaper card. Can you play it in Anarch? Right? It's 2 influence, so can you import it into a faction that makes a lot of money? And I'm not sure I'm not sure how well that lines up. Obviously, you need to sort of test to see if this is your Angolo replacement almost, coming in at cheaper influence but a bigger upfront cost and a little more flexibility if you're punching through sort of multiple ices. I wasn't even necessarily, I think the Spark is cute, but I'm most interested in seeing if I can just pay the real price and then use it to bully a corp.
Alternatively, you patchwork this into the bin, spending the patchwork discount on a retrieval run, and then you get it out for 1 credit. There you go. That's how you play it in Anarch.
And we also have
your Orca too.
Yeah, I was gonna say we also have that new one. What is it called? Something access, right? Privileged access.
Privileged access.
I think you have to pay the installment though.
Privileged access does make you pay, whereas I guess retrieval run letting you cheat that is probably the Anarch way to get it in.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, this is a really good wizard. If you are just playing this and an Orca, and that's kind of your entire rig, then this is a good wizard. This is a good wizard sleep target.
Yeah, I guess the challenge is if your icebreaker is what you're getting in with Wizard's Chest, how are you getting past the ice in the first place?
That's why they printed Botulus.
Yeah, but now we have multiple programs, so we can sometimes whiff on our Wizard's Chest, right?
That's true. I guess we would just have to be good. We would just have to hit it first try.
I think the kickflips might keep this in faction.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the point of like, hey, this is an 8-cost card that can break 2 types of ice, like, that's not unheard of in the game. Like, obviously, there's a couple of notable differences here, but it is a comparison you can make. Yeah, Mike. So if you're trying to see the wolf's face, the upside down face, like I mean, Mike, I honestly think you're trolling me, because the eyes are just to the right of the mouth, and then the face is just upside down from there, the 2 big orbs. But we'll see. All right. Well, should we move on to the next card, or anyone else have more thoughts on Lisome? Okay. Next up, we got Pressure Spike, and I could probably get endurance off the page. This is a 4-cost, 1 memory program icebreaker fractor for Shaper. It says interface 1 credit, break 1 barrier subroutine, 2 credits plus 3 strength, threat 4, 2 credits plus 9 strength. Uses ability only once per run, and then a base strength of 1 and an influence of 3. And yeah, I might start with Ginevra this time. What are your first thoughts when you look at Pressure Spike?
Um, I, I, so I'm thinking it maybe doesn't go in the same build as the previous card.
Yeah.
But it like I did play around with Pan has created a spreadsheet that allows you to look at like breaker versus ice. It is actually quite a nice breaker. I was like, you can always look at Cleaver and go, well, not quite as good, but Cleaver is kind of amazing. So that's fair. I was also thinking about potentials for having some temporary icebreakers. Maybe I was thinking Mayfly or Boomerang or something, and then bringing this in at the threat 4 stage was really where it was getting interesting.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think it's, this is the first breaker I think we've seen that gets like significantly better as in the late game. Though it is kind of a, to some extent, kind of goes along with like cards like Unity and Echelon, which also kind of scale into the late game for Shaper as well.
I think I had a similar feeling about this as Ginevra does, because I kind of see this combining really well with Propeller. Like you have your Propeller, oh, you just resed an envelopment, but I'm actually going to get through it for like 5 credits and 2 counters. And then once you're, that's your early game, like I'm gonna pressure you kind of thing. And then hopefully by the time your propeller's like completely done, then you're like, right, well, I'll sell that with a simul chip, get out the pressure spike that's in the bin. All of a sudden, it's like, that's nice looking Pharos, mate. It's something pretty cool like that.
This kind of it is a very kind of Shaper idea of like, oh yeah, this is my early game breaker, this is my late game breaker for like the same ice type, but like it feels well justified because the install cost of pressure spike is like pretty hefty, and it's not like, it's good in the mid game, right? There's a lot of 4 strength ice that you get to break for 2 credits plus subroutines, which is actually a pretty good rate. Like that's only slightly worse than Cleaver, but you probably do want something a little bit cheaper to be aggressive with in the early game.
I am really excited about this one, because if you search for Shaper Fractors right now, there's 4 of them, and Shaper's had this problem of, please, I just want to go through this 1 strength barrier for not too much trouble. But we've had the card pool problem of, well, you have fun with Gauss costing a lot, or Propeller or Penrose requiring you to do significant kickflips. But all I want is to get through vanilla. But now we have something that is going to get through vanilla, and I think it can coast on the success of Cleaver, because people aren't playing a lot of mid-range barriers. Like the barriers people are really excited to play are these 1 strength barriers with res effects, because there's no point to playing a mid-strength barrier. So I think pressure spike is not going to have to boost a lot of the time. Not unless they're trying to get a barrier to 8 strength. And now you're excited about the threat text.
Yeah, I think that's like a good show is like, yeah, this pressure spike isn't better than Cleaver, but it probably does exploit how corps are adapting to Cleaver and allows you to like handle things like Bran maybe more cheaply and easily. Holly, I'd also love to hear your thoughts on the card.
I think this card is interesting. Part of what's keeping me from being as excited about it is I feel like Threat 4 is a really hard number to reach. Something that I didn't really expect on first reading, but in playing, Threat 3 versus Threat 4 feels like a mile of difference. So when I'm looking at this card, the Threat 4 is almost flavor text to me in terms of like how most of the game is going to be going out. And so the question is like, in Shaper, right? I think Cephalapod said, Shaper does have that barrier card pool problem. So this is filling an important niche for them. But it's not something that I would really look to out of faction, which, if I'm being honest, is how I evaluate Shaper cards.
Yeah, that's fair. It was probably a little cruel to make you come on here and talk about Shaper cards for a bit, but that's okay. That's what Balaram Wu is here for.
I guess the one thing about this as well is that you look at this and you're like, oh, this is like anti-Pharos tech,
Hmm.
which it kind of is. But exactly uh, what Holly was saying is this is like the deck which plays Pharos is Soccer's deck from Worlds, right? I
Hmm.
mean, there are other cases, but that's what I'd be worried about. That's if I'm like, how am I going to deal with Pharos? I'm thinking about Soccer's deck. If you're at threat 4, like Soccer's not getting to threat 4 in that deck, you're already dead. So if you're at threat 4, then you're already doing pretty well because you've managed to find probably 6 points of agendas, and the game's practically over. So I think it's fairly unlikely that the one kind of the one ice which this seems to be kind of there to keep in check is is kind of almost irrelevant due to the threat text. If it was threat free, then it would kind of be perfect for it. But
Hmm.
maybe very wisely it's not.
Yeah, we can't give Shaper too many good cards all in one set, I
Oh
guess.
hell no.
Yeah,
Then Anarch takes them all and then they get banned.
yeah, fair point, fair point. Um, all right, should we move on to the next card, or do we? Anyone else have some final thoughts that I want to get in? All right,
I
well,
guess I was thinking
oh,
that. Oops,
sorry.
sorry. I was thinking that there was a lot of effort, like a lot of turbine, a lot of reducing the power of ice, and this is like going the other way, just having the possibility, yes, very slowly, of just very big strength ice breaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, that does seem like a big kind of thing that NSG was communicating at one point of like, hey, we need to like reduce the strength of ice at some point. But you know, I think to some extent it feels like there was some things didn't quite line up properly, and so now like we're seeing a bunch of 6 strength ice or like infinitely scaling strength ice again. Um, and maybe it's you want some, maybe this, like, you could argue this card's almost more of a safety valve than like
Mm.
a like a strong meta card. Though it actually breaks like strength 4 and strength 7 ice like quite efficiently, but it's going to struggle in the like the kind of gaps between to be super efficient. So I don't know, I think it's a challenge where it's also one of those things where once you start like, if you like intend to course correct, but then undercorrect for like corpse, like a lot of the Borealis ice felt kind of, not a lot of it saw much play. It's like, oh well, if that's too weak, and then we also printed some strong stuff for the runner. Well, now you have to compensate by printing really strong corp ice, and then like you get stuck in this loop, which can be a little bit tricky. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Well, I think we'll have to see, and hopefully NSG will publish some articles at some point on the thoughts of ice and icebreakers and how things are going. But we'll see. All right. Well, next up we have this card is king making. It is from. I probably should have spoiler warning this one, just because not all of you might have seen it. This is the Gordian Blade for today. I definitely recommend going to check it out. Lost Geek did a great job as always. This is a 4/2 with an asterisk on it. When you score this agenda, draw up to 3 cards. You may add 1 agenda worth 1 or less agenda points from HQ to your score area. And then some flavor text from the Hollow Man about getting the Automata initiative through the Senate. So Holly, I might start with you. We're out of Shaper Land. We're into NBN, hopefully a little more comfortable. What are your initial thoughts when looking at king making?
So I'm pretty excited about this card. I think that this makes me really interested in playing AR enhanced security again.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things that really was rough about scoring Ares was you actually had to put it on the table and then you had to advance it, and that was a tempo hit, even if though it was really great once you had it scored. And so being able to play sort of a 4-3 alongside that, maybe playing the new Epiphany 3-1 from the previous set, just
Oracle
as sort
Think
of
Tank?
yeah, Oracle Think Tank, thank you, as sort of a complement to make sure you're always hitting that 4-3. Could make this really interesting as a way to say, hey, I don't actually need to score a Bologna to win the game.
Yeah, that's a really nice thing for NBN because like I feel like a lot of the NBN decks in the meta right now have this issue where like they can't actually score out unless they score a Bologna at some point, and it is like having the ability to do that could potentially change their game plans. Cephalapod Wizard, I feel like this might be your kind of card, though I don't know if you've got other stuff to do with this.
This is definitely some yellow shaper nonsense. We can finally get out onto the corpse side a little more. And this does come with the risk of you're going to be holding agendas, but it might be an answer to NBN, whose a lot of their functionality has been having just packing their agendas all into Bologna. And the idea of actually playing NBN with 12 agendas or so just sounds bad. But this might let you threaten a bit more of a score out with a deck that's constructed that way. And future spoiler discussions is going to be super relevant to this idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, chat is also talking a lot about false lead as another potential valuable score out. These sort of agendas with static abilities were obviously are going to be like the prime candidates you want to score along with this. Bara and Wu, I'm kind of curious what your initial take is on king making.
I think this is a crap agenda. I will obviously be proven wrong because whenever I make a bold statement on daily casts, it's immediately counteracted. I don't think this gets played at competitive level, at least not currently. I think there's better 4-2s to be scoring out. I think, yeah, you can. This is kind of like a 4-3. We do already have a 4-3 if you want to be doing that, which has like less hoops that you have to jump through technically. Okay, you can fast advance this. Not the easiest thing to fast advance 4-3s, 4-2s. It is possible now. There's a few options. I just don't. I don't see it. Like, if we're adding something to our score area, it's got to have a really, really powerful effect. And like, getting a secondaries is good. Obviously, like false lead is fine, and it kind of gets you straight up to threat 3, and then you've got false lead scored. All right, but how are you scoring this off the board in the first place? So I don't know. I think this doesn't see play outside of some pretty off-meta janky decks. Tune into WooTube next Monday.
Got
All
the
right,
devil's
well,
advocate though.
oh yeah, please.
This is in the same faction as Your Digital Life. People were playing Your Digital Life on that HB agenda that draws you 3 cards. Now we get to do it in faction.
Yeah, but that didn't have to discard when you scored that. So you could start your next turn with like 8 or 9, maybe even like 10 cards, probably even more than that with the PD ability as well. Like you could start your turn with a ton of that. If you are somehow scoring this and then have like enough clicks to play your digital life before the end of your turn, then I mean you're making some bold plays behind some dubious ice would be my take.
Now, hear me out on the sudden commandment.
Yeah, no, Sudden Commandment is maybe a combo piece you could start looking at in HB, though it's definitely going to be, it's always a big reach to kind of fast advance out a 4-2, even when you've got Sudden Commandment out there. Ginevra, we haven't heard from you on this card. What were your kind of initial thoughts when looking at this card?
I was kind of thinking a lot of NBN I've played against, and I haven't played as NBN as much, but they've often had Echo Chamber or something like that to just give them a little extra points. So I was thinking it would fill that role of like getting your little extra points out.
Mm-hmm.
I also noticed in the chat, and I was thinking maybe superconducting hub, is that the right word? As a neutral agenda, which is 3-1, maybe you want to do some shenanigans with having lots of hand size. I don't know what those shenanigans are, but I think it would be certainly fun to explore. I don't know if it's strong, but it would certainly be fun to explore stuff.
I also want to indulge us for just a second on a very silly discussion, which is, does this open up anything for Ampere? So that we can start scoring 3-1s in other factions or 2-1s in other factions that give us abilities.
Mm.
But I'm trying to think what other factions have 3-1s we really want to add to the score area that don't have like when scored abilities. And maybe there aren't any. Like HBs are when scored, right? That's Mega Pre and Superconducting Hub. No, not Superconducting Hub. Hyperloop Extension.
What does Elivagar do? Does that work? No.
I think Elvigar... Let's see if I can find Elvigar. There it is.
That's on score.
Yeah, that's on score as well.
I think your options are like Divested Trust, Water Monopoly, if it's still a card, technically, does something. Like Divested Trust is the only one I can immediately think of which has like something that's potentially
has continuous text after it's added to the score area. Yeah, okay. Well, maybe NSG will do us a solid and reprint Biofrost Array. Though I guess it can't be this cycle, or it has to be out of the faction, but yeah.
Or we get something cool that's agenda with 0.
Oh, there are a couple of those. Yeah.
Because those are sometimes really interesting and cool, even.
Yeah. Yeah, like you could use...
I could see NBN getting a 2-0, especially based on how this card is written.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's not like a leak, but it would kind of make sense.
Yeah, that's a good thought. All right, well, I'm excited because we've had some different impressions of the value of the power level of this card, and I'm excited to see where it ends up ultimately. And I think it's going to depend on one of the cards we're going to get to towards the end of the stream. But next up, we got Janina. No, that can't be right. J.K. Janina. J.K. Dumont. Janai.
Janaina.
Okay. J.K. Dumont Kindalan, an asset academic clone. When your turn begins, place 3 credits on this asset. Click Add this asset to HQ. Take all credits from this asset. You may install 1 card from HQ. 3 influence, and 1 to trash. Seth, do you want to take an initial stab at this card?
I am not sure about this one, but I do want to share a really funny picture, if that's possible. Is that possible to get onto the stream?
You can, yeah, shoot it in the Discord, and I'll try and
put
get
it
it on
in
the stream.
Yeah, I'll put it there.
Okay. Yep.
Because this makes me think that I was talking about the hubris of trying to line up multiple agendas and how that's going to backfire on you. I think this is even bigger on the hubris because it looks like a daily quest, but you have to wait until the very last moment until you're done with it to actually get the payout. And the image I shared was, yeah, that one. The image I shared was of someone who has a super deep borehole behind 10 ice going off in one turn, and then the runner pulls out a pinhole threading. And I think we're just setting ourselves up for this.
Yes, that's definitely, I think, one possible take on this card. And I think a pretty reasonable one. Like, this has been one I've seen a lot of people be a little bit down on. Ollie, I might go to you next for your thoughts on JK.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take this from a different direction because I think if you look at it as daily quest, it's going to match up really poorly.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about this as a low investment way to force a runner trash, then it starts getting more appealing. The idea of resing it, putting 3 counters, and then just letting it cook. And then if they come take it, you can fire an Oppo or Ares, or you have some other method of trying to punish that. And if not, then you pop it back, you take your 5, and you put something else down. I think the pinhole sort of argument means it's not appealing, trying to build up this big thing. But the idea that you're going to hit it, every other turn as a 1-of, maybe a 2-of in an asset deck, I think there could be legs there.
Yeah, I definitely look at this, and I think like the other ideas that like stand out to me immediately also are things like Asa Group, where hey, you can kind of grab the 3 off of this and build up your board state as you go, and probably like Atea also seems like a potential good home for this card, where you can install her and then like you can take credits and then just immediately get into install action as well. So it kind of combines some action economy. Now, arguably, like, hey, daily quest just means it doesn't cost the click at all, and so that's a better place to end up. But, I think it's an interesting thought. Baramu, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this card.
Okay, I have 3 thoughts on this card. Thought number 1, JK is potentially the worst nickname that we've seen in this set. Straight in there. However, having listened to you attempt to read that full name and knowing that at some point on stream I'm going to have to do the same, I'm going to take that back. JK is excellent. Let's keep it as JK. Number 2, this is a mirror morph card. I will not accept any other options for it. This is especially good in a mirror morph if you have a Tranquility home grid down. Thank you for my install without using an install click, gaining 2 credits, gaining 3 credits. Like this is sick in mirror morph. So yeah. And pretty sure I had another. Oh yeah, so there's one other thing, which is in terms of like comparing it to daily quest, especially like is the obvious one, but a few other things. Importantly, the credits here are hosted on the card, and let's just for a second assume that the card is safe behind some kind of ice or whatever you've got going on. There is some new econ denial from the runners that we have seen in this set. And whereas your money from daily quest can always be instantly sapped away by the runner, the money that's sat here can't be, unless they can also interact with the card. So there's just one, like, it's rare that it's going to be better than it, because I think if the corpse pressuring you with enough Deuce and Amelia Earharts and whatever, then this probably isn't safe. But there is a time where this you're going to way prefer to have this than something else.
Yeah, I think I think Tranquility Homegrid is like actually a really good shout out where like, hey, yeah, you can install this card every turn potentially, and that makes the payout like significantly higher for this card, and also the risk somewhat lower because you don't have to like actually shell out any credits until it comes in. Unlike Daily Quest, where like if you install it and the runner accesses it, like you actually are losing quite a bit here. So, yeah.
You also are, like, Daily Quest is the most like signposted card by the very means of how it is. So you can never bluff with a Daily Quest. You can never put it in a remote unless you're like planning on just not resing it. Like, you can't say, well, this could be an agenda. It's not an agenda. It's obviously a Daily Quest face up.
Yeah. Also, I want to quickly shout out. This is another of the GLC marginalized community members reveal. Actually, I think Ryan RG Delatos, I think actually spoiled this card, who also came in to remind me. So thank you for the reminder. And people should go actually and make a GLC and check out all of those posts if they can. But yeah. And Ginevra, I haven't given you a chance to talk about this card yet. But thank you for the help with the pronunciation.
No worries. I didn't so much want to talk about the mechanics. I wanted to really shout out Dimmick, and I am so happy with how the art turned out on this one. It's like exactly what we wanted. And I know Jai's in the chat, we almost got Misty Rain. Almost. We tried. But yeah, I do really enjoy the art, and I wanted to mention, I know you're going, JK, isn't there a famous JK? Yeah, but also look through the Brazilian presidents from a bit before my lifetime. Actually, no. Don't go back 100 years, but it's a while ago. Have a look through the presidents there, Pat.
Great. All right, let's keep on moving, and we might even end on time tonight in a shocking turn of events. This is Serif. This is from the GLC kind of interactive bot game, which I know a lot of work went into, and I would definitely recommend checking out. They've been a lot of fun and like quite well executed for the last two sets, so definitely worth checking this one out. This is Serif. It is unique. It is a 10 to res, 5 strength, Sentry AP Observer Deep Net. Excuse me. When the runner encounters this ice, they lose 3 credits unless they suffer 2 net damage or take 1 tag. And then they have it has 3 subroutines. The runner loses 3 credits, do 2 net damage, give the runner 1 tag. So, who wants to go first on this one?
Can I just mention, this is actually the Sahasrara. Have I got that right? Probably not. The Discord bot that is in a number of Discords.
Thank you for the correction.
You probably met it in GLC, but like
that is where I was thinking of it. But you're right. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I haven't got to play it yet, but I really want to because it dropped overnight. I've got really simple thoughts, and then probably other people have got better thoughts. I think I'm going to be running into this and just taking it all and going, oh dear. Taking all the punishment. I also think that like Amelia with that take 10 credits away thing, there are so many ice in this new set that I'm like, I really wish I could just delete 10 credits from the core. I can see the attraction of Amelia. even though I think it's going to be hard for me personally to set up. And I think, you know how you're always watching if Jinteki gets to 8 credits, can they res an Anansi? I'm certainly going to be very aware of the 10 credit mark also for a lot of corps.
Nice. Yeah, Holly, I'm sort of. I might just go down the rotation here and kind of want to hear interested in your take on this card.
So when I saw this, my first thought was, well, my true real first thought was deep net. That's probably never going to be mechanically relevant, but I'm super thrilled for it. I love sort of that flavor text type lines that I think NSG has moved away from to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
But I compare this in my head to Hydra, another 10 strength or 10 cost 5 strength sentry.
Mm-hmm.
And this feels kind of like future proofing. So we're going to lose Hydra, so we're going to need another big, mean piece of ice coming down. I think it is noticeably less mean in terms of the subs and in terms of the strength. 5 versus 6 feels like it matters a lot in a world where your ice might get turbined.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that encounter text is going to be more relevant than maybe it first appears, because there's a lot of botuli and boomerangs and people trying to kickflip all over you, and having a piece of ice that always takes its pound of flesh, and then also has reasonable subs and reasonable strength, is something that's going to be worth looking at. But we also haven't seen a lot of toll booth lately, so we'll see where the NBN meta shakes up in terms of Glacier versus Asset.
Yeah, I mean, we have started seeing. I will say we did see like some Asmari lists being populated to like try and beat up the Ludax, and like I can see them wanting a one of Serif in their list. Just they were already running 3 Hydras. Maybe they cut one, or maybe they just say, "Oh no, we can run." Serif is probably, even though it's 2 credits more expensive, maybe it edges out Toll Booth slightly. Though I guess the runner having optionality is a little bit worse, but it's more resistant to Botulus and kind of Boomerang, as you were saying. But Bara and Wu, I'd love to hear your thoughts next on this.
Okay, so good buddy of mine, Jai, is in chat. He's very high on this. He thinks his ice is really good. I think it's a lot worse than people originally think. I don't think this is anywhere near as good as Hydra. And that's its obvious counterpoint. This is 5 strength as opposed to 6 strength, and that one additional point of strength makes a big difference in the current state of breakers. It's much easier to get, for instance, an echelon to 5 strength than it is to get it to 6 strength, although it is possible. And Hydra ends the run. Obviously not all the time, but can end the run, whereas this one doesn't. This is also unique. So you can't run a ton of these. Or you can, but it's going to be kind of pointless. And I'm out of the super sentries which we've seen. So I mean, there's direct comparisons with Cloud Eater here, and I'm much more scared about Cloud Eater, especially as I think those subs are potentially much more relevant in that color palette than they are here. We've kind of seen NBN take a bit of this gander towards we're actually kind of interested in cards in hand and damage, ice like Unsmiling Srevna and assets like Vera, but we still haven't really seen that archetype become a thing. So until it does, that middle subroutine that says 2 net damage is like a pretty meh, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't know. It's it's scary, obviously, but it's 10 strength and it's unique and like, is it is it worth it? Don't know.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting question to ask. Cephalapod, I'm interested in your thoughts on this card.
Well, I want to call back to a couple minutes ago when we were saying it doesn't seem like we're actually thawing ice and icebreakers, but I think that this is exactly that kind of vision in effect, where instead of 3 hydras on some hell board state, now you can have one of these, and the not end the run is really important to that vision, because if you believe in the heart of the cards, you can finality right through this. Now the game might end shortly after because you let all those subs fire, but at least we're not saying, oh, there's a brick wall of my economy stalled a little bit. As for is this good? It does feel like toll booth if you want to hurt people. It probably is going to be more of an occasional season to flavor on your ice suite. And I think it's going to be fine if you want to do that. I can't really say if the tournament grinders are going to be putting this into their deck.
Do you think you might try to find a deck with a Home for Serif in it?
I think I'd put one copy, which, the unique definitely intends for you to put this in as the occasional end of the line on your ice suite. But I don't think this is going to be definitional to my whole deck is based on Serif, because you just can't do that.
Mm-hmm. I do see a question in the chat. Is DeepNet a subtype now being shared between both Runner and Corp? I think the only other DeepNet card is World Tree. So that does seem like a brand new shared subtype between the two. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for, I guess. We'll have to see, I guess. But it is like a fun flavor piece for sure. Oop, that's the wrong one. Do we want to talk about the final card that's been spoiled today?
Yes.
All right. I think I've tried to make sure we've left a little bit of time for the Hollow Man. The Hollow Man is a 2-cost unique upgrade that is academic, executive, sysop. When your turn begins, you may move this upgrade to the root of another server. Click 4 credits, place 2 advancement counters on a card in the root of or protecting this server. If you have not installed any cards from HQ this turn, instead place 3 advancement counters on that card. Use this ability only once per turn. Holly, I know we were chatting about this card a little bit during the lunch break today. Where do you want to start with the Hollow Man?
I think the Hollow Man is the biggest reason that I'm probably not going to end up playing the 4/3 as much, because this is a card that lets you score Bologna off of the table. No fuss, no muss. If you've got a Bologna down and you've got a Hollow Man down, you flip it up, you move it to the Bologna server, you click it, advance. Your Bologna enters the score area, makes you 5 credits richer, and you go on to win the game. And I think this card has so much flexibility in terms of Glacier decks, right? Like you telegraph it, you place it in your Hell server alongside your other agendas, or you're playing an asset spam deck and you've got, 16 assets on the board. Your turn starts, surprise, one of them was a Hollow Man and a Bologna, and that's going to take it away. I think it is expensive, but like we were talking about, it does line up pretty well versus Sand City Grid in terms of the cost for scoring agendas for placing advancements. And the way that I envision this card is as a way to say, hey, I'm in control. Now I'm just going to quickly put it away.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that can really, as we mentioned earlier in the cast, like, it can be difficult for NBN to go from I need to actually score a Bologna now, And the Hollow Man is a way for these near Earth hub decks, near horizontal near Earth hub decks, or like Epiphany Analytica decks if they start showing up more widely, to like kind of do some nonsense, right? And score off the board in ways that are more difficult for the runner to keep up with. And it does add like a, another must trash to NBN, I think, because it's not a card you want to leave on the board. Ginevra, I'd love to throw to you next on the Hollow Man.
The thing about it that interests me is I really enjoy playing seamless launch and doing a kind of a not advance or ever advance or that type of a scoring pattern. So this makes me really think, oh, can I branch out of HB and start having a look at the potential for that sort of a play pattern in NBN.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely feel like this is meant to support that style.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of fun.
Very nice. Seth, let's go to you.
All right. In chat, people are saying that this might be the best card art in the game, and that is definitely a strong contender. And I love getting this more surreal, weird art. But also in terms of Epiphany, before we saw a lot of this season's spoilers, people asked, why would I activate Epiphany's ability? I'm just going to let him play a blank 5/3 and conduit them. And I think that between this and possibly the JK spoiler, now we've got a reason where you should really think about trashing Epiphany stuff off the table and let them get their counters.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because the whole... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, because I think the question was kind of, where's the sauce? Where's the payoff? And here it is. I think these are the cards.
Yeah, I think Hollow Man, so it's worth stating, the Hollow Man says, if you did not install any cards from HQ this turn, so you can use Epiphany Analytica to, it's score a 4/2 from out of your deck by clicking the ID ability, installing it on top of the Hollow Man, and then click pay 4, put down 3 advancement counters. So you're actually only really spending 1 there to some extent after the 2 to res, and then advance and you're done. And actually, what was that other NBN agenda that we got spoiled that even places an advancement on itself?
Stoke the Embers.
Thank you. We can even give ourselves a whole extra click there if we're installing and advancing Stoke the Embers, excuse me. Which could be a little bit fun. All right, Balram Wu, I've left you for last to take a quick shot on the Hollow Man.
Okay. So
doesn't have to be super quick, but
yeah, it probably won't be. The art is incredible. Leah absolutely smashing this one. If anyone knows the band Bongal, this has serious Bongal vibes to it. I want this on a playmat, mainly so that I can put it down facing the opponent. They have to look at that as they sit down. I think you've won half the game at that point, just from that absolute terrifying fear which you're going to put into it. Right. This card text. Out of all the cards we've seen so far, this is the one I think the most likely will get banned. There's too much nonsense that you can do with this. There's too much potential for this to be incredibly broken for that not to be the case. I've been, since this was spoiled today, I've been hacking out ideas using this card with some fellow teammates. And all along, because I'm not very good at reading cards. Many people will know this. I'm not good at passing stuff. I didn't even notice that initial bit of text. I didn't know until right now that I could move it amongst different servers at the start of the turn, and I already thought this was super hacked, broken. This card is nuts. I hope you have clock. And like, I mean, it's not even that. I'm waiting to work out what the hell I can do with this internal, because there's definitely some really disgusting things that we can do with this internal. Um, we were talking about bringing back 3 times AstroScript, right? Is that
Yeah, it's true.
we're doing right, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Sure,
yeah. No, no, let's do it.
yeah,
We got to make it
yeah,
happen.
absolutely. This that won't be a problem at all. Um, yeah, like if anyone's not looking at this and going, well, this is a broken card, then yeah, I'll eat my hat.
Yeah, I mean this is definitely a strong tool for NBN, 100%. Um, yeah, I don't know. Um, all right. Well, I mean, yeah, we've talked. I guess what homes are you initially trying it in? Ba is maybe a question. And you don't have to. You don't
You
just
know,
build testing secrets, but
I won't spill tested secrets, but you know the answer to this. It's the same place that you want to try this in, Jeff.
you gonna say
You're
op.
trying this in Ob. You're trying this in Ob. Obviously, you're trying this in Ob. Like, like this can do silly things in Ob. This is 2 strength. This is 2 cost. 2 cost is a very good cost. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is,
Can you?
you know,
Yeah, I'm realizing now if your agenda is already in the remote, you can calibration testing and Hollow Man, and then even advanced twice, and you can like score an unadvanced SDS, right?
this can very easily score out 5 threes as long as you have like one of the pieces
Yeah.
already on the board and you can shoot at the other one. Um, yeah, yeah, all a little bit silly. Um, there are ways to install stuff not from HQ as well outside of OB. I think someone earlier mentioned Kakarembo, and I didn't think that there was a combo there, but then they pointed out that there's the new operation in yellow, which means that you could play that new operation, get a click back, Kakarembo something down, which means it comes from archives, not from HQ, and then you've still got a click left to click the Hollow Man. Like that's disgusting. You could reclaim an agenda onto this if you wanted to, like, or you could reclaim the Hollow Man so that you're not installing from HQ. There's just not reclaim, sorry, what restore it.
Yep. Yep.
Um, yeah, this is problematic. This is problematic, but there we go. We'll let everyone have their fun and watch people come for the Hollow Man's head within like 3 months.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to that ban list, I guess. Um, all right. Anyone else have final thoughts they want to get in on the Hollow Man? Okay. I think with that, I want to say thank you to all of my guests. Thanks, Ginevra, Holly, Baran Wu, and Cephalapod. It was wonderful to have you all on. And tomorrow will be the final daily cast of the spoiler season. We will see almost all the cards, but and then that will be at 6 p.m. Eastern, so starting an hour before today's stream did, because that's the regular time. And I hope to see you all then. It's going to be a full cast. I might talk with them about doing a slightly longer stream so that we can discuss all of the various kind of recap of where we are with 90% of the cards done. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good time. Thank you again to all my guests, and thanks to chat for hanging out. You guys all make it a lot of fun.